Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. Today we're talking about fleet planning and how not to overspend. Star Citizen is a smorgasbord of opportunity. Bounty hunting, construction, cargo running, mining, salvage, exploration, medical gameplay, on and on the list goes. So of course, you need a Carrack for exploration, but maybe also an Endeavor which covers that medical gameplay too. But then you need an Apollo or a Cuddy Red, and don't forget a Prospector and a Rockin', well then an MSR for the Rockin'. Oh man, this list is getting long. Don't fool yourself either, because odds are you've had this thought process once or twice if you've been in the verse a while. Never mind, it's easy to lose focus when you're saving for those big ships and their semi-annual sale opportunities. Thing is, it's super easy to overspend in Star Citizen, which is why today we're going to talk about just that very thing. For some viewers, you might be thinking, well, that's not a problem for me, I don't have that kind of money. But the reality is it doesn't matter if your fleet looks like this or like this, you can still overspend. Of course, the real question is perhaps, why is this a problem at all? After all, if you have the money to spend, is it really so bad? Truthfully, the only person you could hurt is yourself, but the real problem is one of really enjoying the game. Let's start by looking at it like this. Here we are in one of the most disliked pilot seats in the game, which is partly funny because the most hotly anticipated ship at the moment has the same view. Now, that isn't what we're really here to talk about, but the view is important here. The Freelancer doesn't have bells and whistles. It's a flying bus that had a one-nighter with a semi-truck. Medbay? No. Really cool animations? No. The new hotness? No. Captain's quarters? No. We could go on and on, but for most Star Citizens, these are just a small number of reasons you wouldn't buy nor fly this ship. In fact, most people would say they would only fly it if it was their only ship. Which is the point. If you only had one of these, or this was your best cargo mover going into 313, you would get used to the view. Because you fly anything long enough, you get used to the view. In fact, as a gunner on an M270, after a month looking out to the world from this tiny window, sitting in one of these was like going to an IMAX. If it were your only ship, you would work around its flaws. After all, it's no cruise ship. Who needs a private captain's quarters? You usually stay in an easy hab anyways. What's important is that it does the job well, and the Freelancers are excellent small cargo ships. Unless you own a Caterpillar. Sure, well, it's nice to see the front of the ship. Not having any idea what's on the starboard side of the ship is a problem, and one you didn't have in that Freelancer. Many a cat owner know what I'm talking about here. So what? You only put 50 SCU of cargo into it. The cat's fast, and the cat can carry more if you could get it. Pretty useful too from A to B with that stock QT drive. Yet here most cat owners own more than just a cat, right? Maybe not a Freelancer, but most own at least one other smaller cargo ship that they never fly. The thing about Star Citizen is this. The ships represent a spectrum of gameplay. Let's look at the cargo line because it's linear in process. You start out with an entry-level ship, literally anything that can move a package. From there, you move up in ship size to get ships that can carry more and more cargo until you reach the endgame content that is the whole E. Now, when I lay it out like that, sure, you only need one, but, and I know you were thinking it isn't simple like that, right? The whole E screams, "Come rob me." And you'll need a big escort, not to mention a big wallet to fill it. No one day one is going to use the whole E. And that's why you need that Cuddy or that Freelancer. Everyone who played before 2020 knows what I'm talking about. After a wipe, you have to have that starting ship, followed by the ship in your middle economy plan that makes the money until you can run those full cats. That's why you need 6 cargo ships in your fleet. Also, you can't just take an obvious cargo ship in a Spider, unless you want to be robbed outright, so you're going to need a discreet hauler. Maybe if you're smuggling stuff too, you're going to need something to get around the advocacy, except you don't. That's the trap. Plenty of big fleet owners know what I'm saying, even if they don't want to admit it. you don't actually use all 6 of them. You use 2. Maybe. The full truth of Star Citizen is the sweet spot is around 3 ships. You really probably don't use more than that. A general utility ship, a fighter, and probably a miner or a cargo ship. Emphasis on the miner, because that utility ship is probably a hauler of some sort. So despite the hype of the new almost $400 Starlifter that I have fawned over images of for years now, the truth is for most citizens it will languish, like the Carrack, 890 or Starfarer in the back of the hangar, pulled out usually to show people who've never seen one. Worse, I own all 3 Starlifters. Talk about overbuying. And using myself as an example, I tell myself it's because it's tied for my favorite ship, so I should own all 3 from a collector's standpoint. When though really am I going to use that A2? Which is true even then of larger combat ships, right? If you own a Perseus, why do you own any other big warship? Or a Polaris? Or a Nautilus? Or, well, you get my point. Perhaps then my rationale for not applying the CCUs, even though I could, is the best litmus test of all. My current fleet picture doesn't really demonstrate my final fleet, or even the fleet I could have tomorrow, because of loaner doubling. For those who don't know, if you have the same loaner for 2 ships, you only get 1. Since I already have a hammerhead for my Perseus, there's no reason to apply my Polaris or my A2 CCUs, because I'd get the same loaner back, and thus wouldn't even get one. That is CIG subconsciously telling me something. These ships are the same. Don't get me wrong, the hammerhead is the opposite of the Perseus. The thing is, I can only fly 1 at a time. Big fleet battles will not be a daily thing, no matter what your org general tells you. It's nice to think, I want the choice. I want to make sure if we have a bunch of Perseuses that I have a hammerhead to bring along to fill in the gap. But the truth is, you will be exponentially happier if you only had the 1 to start with. After all, owning both might mean you don't get to take the one you like better because you're the only one who had the other one. No one else liked it either. Just like that Freelancer, if you only had 1 big combat ship, you wouldn't mind its shortcomings. Sure, a Polaris captain has a sexier cabin, but just like real ship captains, you're happy for the one you have on that hammerhead. It's yours, after all. It's easy to want a bunch of fighters, but in an ode to a video I made last year talking about how big fleets could be painful to maintain in the final release version of the verse, you're only going to fly 1. Figure out which one that is and don't buy the others, even if they do look super cool or have features yours doesn't. Here's a truth about human psychology. We thrive on challenge. Rich people are unhappy because they have it all. Sure, they don't have money problems, but as the song goes, they still have 99 more. If all you owned was this Freelancer, you would get a kick out of making it work for things it wasn't meant to do. It's the reason we have difficulty sliders in video games. When the part that makes the fleet work is you won't get tired of Star Citizen. When you drop $8,000 into the game and it gets boring because your Carrack is just as useful as a Freelancer Max, you're going to get salty. Someday they will be more different, sure, but Star Citizen's gameplay is the journey, not the destination. Now, this isn't to say you can't have a big fleet and be happy. There is a video game relationship between time to play and money to play. If you're single and in college, maybe, with full weekends ahead of you to grind out that next ship level in game, you're going to love every minute of it. However, if you're a parent, spouse, full-time employee, and have a YouTube channel to make content for each week, skipping the grind and running those later game cargo runs isn't such a bad idea either. If you have the financial means, that is. Speaking of financial means, we're less than 400 subs away from picking the 10K giveaway ship that could be the 3rd ship we were just talking about in your fleet. If you want a voice in the choice, head on over to Patreon and join Led's Legion. You'll also get exclusive access on the new Discord, and if you want that ship, make sure to be subscribed. So, to quote Jared, what did we learn this week? Well, a big fleet isn't a bad thing, but it can be really easy to imagine yourself flying that new hotness CIG is promoting. So easy, in fact, you forget about the last new hotness you added to your hangar last month. I won't be the one to tell you don't buy the ships you love in the verse, though do keep in mind you should never buy ships you cannot afford. With the exception of the F5 wars of IAE and Invictus, which this doesn't apply anyways to, sleep on your ship decisions. Look at your fleet. Why are you adding this ship? Just because it makes something easier? Is that really what you want? And look, maybe you don't care about challenge. That's fine. There are plenty of people who want to sign up for Starfleet and be made captain of the Enterprise tomorrow. Which grants our next best litmus test. Naming. I know people who lost sleep over wanting to make sure they got the best name for their MSR. It took me forever to even think of one. And it wasn't until someone suggested something similar that I named mine from my YouTube channel. Why? Because in my fleet, the MSR isn't a big important ship. The name of my Carrack, Polaris, A2, those matter to me, and I thought a lot about them. Naming my MSR was like naming my lawnmower. Again, there's nothing wrong with owning a big fleet. I have one. But the grass is always greener on the other side, and as someone who loves their lawn, it isn't always fun keeping it green. I'm just saying, think twice before you buy that bigger lot. So let me know in the comments, if you had to pick only 3 ships, what would they be? Like this video, share it with your friends thinking of spending all their money. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you all next time.